Maddie Lampe from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet for wiener. Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seed.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And welcome to the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Being brought to you from Bomb City, USA.
Bomb City, USA. Cleveland.
It's a show that talks about live fire stuff. Like ESPN covers the world of sports, this show covers the live fire industry in all forms and fashions. Even non-forms and fashions or the industry from time to time.
Hit me.
Still to come on the show this evening, Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe. In about 12 or 13 minutes from now, we are live audibly on Clubhouse on a audio stream. We are on video streams currently, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show, and on YouTube /RD Rempe. YouTube having a very robust chat roll going on, so if you want to interact with some other fans, get over on the YouTube. You can get an ad-free podcast feed experience through the Apple Podcast app, but that's the only way you listen to the show and you hate all the ads. Subscribe over on Apple Podcast, and it's ad-free that way. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, and this is an abridged hype-up, but you don't want to miss it. Look, John is the best at getting these shows down. Just when I think he has hit his stride, he pulls off episode 231, and I am continually reinvigorated for my love of the show with his love of the show because he's digging deeper than anybody is. I'm not going out on a limb to say nobody is a bigger fan or knows more minutia or more of the show, including me, than executive producer of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, John Solberg. Unbelievable. Coming up this Friday, you are going to hear me talk about bits that I pulled and played on the show from back in 2012, where a then unsexually scathed, is that right? Mario Batali going off on actors judging his food when he was on Iron Chef back on Food Network. Somehow that transitions to Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage, which somehow transitions to Representative Mike Bost going off, or as the kids say, going ham on Illinois state government about a bill that was supposed to be voted on, and it was handed out moments before, like an hour was going to pass before he would have had to have voted on it, and he was pissed, to say the least. You'll get to hear all of that. Don't worry about it. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed in order to get that. But notwithstanding that, we have some results to get to. Last week was month 2 of American Idol Barbecue Central Show edition. And John and myself and Rusty Monson sang our hearts out. And after a week, almost week of voting, the results are in. However, if you missed the show last week and you don't know what we sounded like, here's how we sounded.
Just a good old boys, never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born.
So give it to me and tell me I'm alright. I wanna be your chemical ride, and how I love the things you say to me.
I took my love and I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought me down.
That's what it sounded like a week ago. I still kind of crap my pants a little bit that we have a signed lead singer of a band sitting in and being our celebrity judge this season. That's a little mind-blowing for me. Anyway, most votes ever over the course of this week. And the lanes between 1 and 2 and 3 were separated by no more than 15 votes. From first to second to third. A large turnout. Swells of me and Rusty to start. Swells of John, which I expected. Midweek and late last week. And then a rush over the weekend before the deadline closed Sunday at 11:59. Leaving us this week is none other than current champion John Solberg. Unbelievable. John, welcome in, and I'm surprised that we're having this conversation. I thought it might be you and me as a rematch of last year, but not to be. So your thoughts on making it to the semifinals, which, of course, I don't think Doug has ever sniffed even the second round, maybe once in 3 years, but your thoughts on your performance last week and how we're booting you out this week.
Hey, super excited to have made it this far. Super grateful for everyone who voted for me. Obviously, no one likes to lose. Not much I can say about that. It was tough competition. You guys are great competitors. It was mine to lose this year, and I certainly have done that. So I've got to regroup, go out there, and come back a little bit harder next year if I expect to continue on in this game.
When you look at this nonsense we are doing from year 1 to where we are now in year 3, what are your thoughts? I'm asking Oklahoma Joe what his thoughts are when you saw a pellet cooker come out, and what do you think about him now 30 years later? But 3 years or 2 years after the debut of American Idol and the singing and how we all thought it was really stupid and I'm forcing everybody to do this. What do you think about it now 2 years in with celebrity judges, the girls being the most ruthless they have ever been this season, and our production ability?
Well, first of all, I think it's still really stupid because it's extremely difficult. I mean, you're like trying to make a pig fly with me. I'm not a bird. I'm a pig. I can't sing. So I think it's extremely difficult. I have learned a lot as far as mixing singing music. You know, I mix my spoken word. So it's still a big challenge. I think it's still difficult. And there's some great competition. I mean, you and Rusty can truly just sit down and sing. So the contest is definitely makes me more driven to improve, get better, try to sing, try to get better. So it's been a great learning experience, if nothing else.
Do you think you would have gone back and done a different song last week knowing what you know now, or you don't think it would matter?
I think hindsight's 20/20. You know, it's that was a strategy that got me through last year to the end of picking songs that I was comfortable with and what I thought was in my wheelhouse, and I thought that was a bit outside of it. So probably not. Always got to go back to Rod Gray, put your best food in the box, turn it in. The judges will take care of the rest. So I am confident that I put the best song I could in the box for last week and turned it in. I'm no pride loss for me. I did the best I could with that song and turned it in.
When you look at next month and the finals, just your speculation, who do you think comes out on top season 3?
It's a tough call, and it all just depends on how much time Rusty puts in front of the microphone. If Rusty puts a little bit of time in front of the microphone, he's going to give you some competition. But early on, you've got the edge on him because, you got a little bit of mixing skills and you got a great voice, and you can sing a lot of genres. So it's going to be tough. Do we know who came in first in this month? I'm sorry, I didn't pick up who was first and who was second. First, right? You are the guy to beat.
It was. I mean, there were literally 15 votes separating all the way down the stratus. So it was me, and then 15 ahead of Rusty, 15 ahead of you. And, you have a unique ability to mobilize your fan base, and I don't know if some of them took a little time off or just missed it or bad holiday weekend or whatever, but I thought it would have been perhaps another boat race scenario, but it didn't happen to work out like that, and we'll see how it goes next month.
Well, I don't really have a fan base, so I don't have a social.
You do?
I don't have.
I have the results to prove it. I could go back to last month, and we were boat raced through. By Wednesday, it was already out of hand. There was nobody. It was a fight for second or third. So there is some mobilization ability, or there is some fan base that's carrying you. So just make sure you chastise them accordingly now, right?
That's grassroots. Right. My people love me. I'll take the sympathy votes all day long. I'm coming back next year. I'm coming for you.
Well, come for the winner. Don't come for me yet. By the way, John, congratulations on episode 231. I listened to it today. It was amazing that you hear that and in your ear go, yeah, that's something that's got to be a best moments show. And I listened to the whole thing, and I'm like, wow, that's completely amazing.
Well, I appreciate the kind words even leading into this, but hopefully that's why you put me in that chair.
Absolutely.
To keep getting better. Every show I try to get better. You're only as good as your last show, so I try to go into that every single time. Think ahead, try to plan, try to make it good. I'm trying not just to phone it in so that those fans can get something entertaining, hopefully go back and listen to the rest of that show. Sometimes it amazes me. I go, how did I even find that? Sometimes it's just luck. But you just have to listen to a lot of shows and you go like, oh, get the pen, driving down the road, write that down, stop, log that in. So it is a lot of fun. It continues to make me a better cook. I continue to learn stuff listening to your shows every single week.
Well, we appreciate you putting those together every Friday, and we certainly appreciate your efforts here in Season 3 of American Idol Barbecue Central Show Edition. Short from repeating champion, but a semifinalist nonetheless, John Solberg. John, always appreciate you stopping by the show and doing everything that you do for the show. Certainly not underappreciated. It is perhaps not even appreciated enough, even though I really try to appreciate it as much as possible. You're a valued member of the society and the show, and we thank you. And good luck next year, John, and thank goodness we're not having to compete against you. Oh, my God. Thank you. There he is, John. Not repeating as champion this year, which I think for Rusty and I is a good thing. Now, Rusty and I have to work out the recorded duet or the produced duet, and then we have to come up with our live singing songs. And this is back to the regular length month, 4 weeks, and that's it. Not the extra bonus of 5th weeks like we are here in May. Ray Lampe is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just 1 second. I will let you know about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies will get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at Big Papa Smokers has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. Everything from the award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills, Big Papa's has something for you to become a better outdoor cook than you already are. Really? Yes. Popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition and backyard circuits. 13 perfectly balanced flavors, transforming ordinary meals into extraordinary. The owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce, check out that one. Granny's traditional yet powerful flavor reminds us of why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. And aside from the rubs and sauces, they're selling some of the very best charcoal, pellet, and wood cookers available today. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Not sure what you need? Call them, 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop their website at bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We are back with Ray Lampe. Right after this, stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show, presented by the Ryder Deluxe Pellet Grills from Oklahoma Joe's. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. the Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 3 sizes, a host of accessories. Whether you are a beginner or you're a professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal, visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. My next guest needs no introduction. He's appeared on this show in some form or fashion since 2006. He's an accomplished barbecue cook and author. Appears on TV shows, a pitchman, a brand ambassador, Barbecue Hall of Famer, and Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer. He's also one of my favorite guys to talk about the live fire industry with. So let's go ahead and hit that Oklahoma Joe's Ryder DLX Pellet Grills hotline. And welcome back, Dr. Barbecue, to the show. Hey, Ray.
Hey, Greg. Good to see you, man. Always a pleasure.
Great to
2006.
See you. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it's that long. No. We don't look that old.
Here's me and Ray in a podcast back in 2006, me about ready to deuce myself because I'm talking to Dr. Barbecue for the first time. So how did you get in? How did you get in the barbecue? What were you doing back then? And I mean, it was such an honor for me. And I mean, here we are 16 years later, and the show certainly evolved. Thank God. And
was I a dick that first time?
I mean, you were
I'm much
great.
Nicer as I'm getting old. You know,
well,
I'm not a dick anymore.
No, you were certainly gracious, and your story is a great story. I could hear somebody interview about how you were in trucking, and it was the family business, and you were in Chicago, and was it Mike Royko, or I think Royko is the last name, the rib contest, and how that all started, and Sweet Baby Ray's somehow thrown in the mix of that, and eventually you moved down to Florida. I mean, it's just a great story of getting out of one industry, deciding to go down to Florida, and I'm going to make this barbecue thing happen. And you did, and you're still doing it. So that takes self-awareness. That takes the self-awareness to say, I have to evolve. I can't be the same way I was 10 years ago. I can't be the same way I was 15 years ago. So as somebody who has really lived a barbecue lifestyle, as I said, I could sit here and listen to anybody interview and have you tell that same story 20 times in a row. And it's always fascinating to me because it's a success story that continues on. And every year it seems to change a little bit, but by and large, it's the consistency of living it, putting in the work, being professional, and seeing the rewards of your labor paying off.
Well, thank you. Those are nice words. And some weeks I feel like I do tell that story 20 times, and I don't mind telling it. I'm happy to tell it again because it's been my life. It's funny to think like this. Sunday I turned 65, which is, I don't care who you are, that's a milestone in your life.
Sure.
And we don't retire at 65. I certainly am not gonna, and it's not part of the equation, but it is a milestone age. And you look back and you think, my God, man, how did all of that happen? Because it really has been 2 completely unrelated careers. And, you say barbecue, I've lived a barbecue life. Yes, I have. There's no question about it. But I say this about Chris Capel a lot, that it was just his widget. Chris was going to do that. It just wasn't, barbecue seasoning happened to be the thing, because Chris was that guy. He's just that entrepreneurial guy and creative. And he was the first guy putting those crazy names on his rubs. And I think that's more my story, is that I was an entrepreneur. I just, you think about my barbecue career. Okay, how did I make a living? Well, for a stretch there in the beginning, I was making a living selling food out of a truck. Wasn't that lucrative? Then I was like kind of walking around on the rib burner circuit a little bit. That wasn't very lucrative either. Then I got an opportunity to write a cookbook. And I was like, well, I never thought I knew how to do that. But okay, that's how I paid my bills for 10 years, writing cookbooks. It was great. And then along came Big Green Egg. And I really wasn't a fan of that. And I never thought I'd be a backyard grill spokesman. And then that happened. And now these last 5 years, I'm making a living in the restaurant business. And it's really, it's really amazing how I've rolled from one thing to the next. And like I said, I tend to think it's more of an entrepreneur story. I say this a lot. Those of us that way back in the day, we thought we were going to be like NASCAR. Okay, I'm going to be the Miller Lite guy and you're going to be the Tide guy. And it didn't work out that way. It really didn't. You know, when you go to these cook-offs now, it looks like everybody's all sponsored up, but ask me if that's really paying for your mortgage and your rent. And, you know, I mean, I just don't think it worked out quite like we thought. What did happen was the guys who had the entrepreneurial set of balls figured it out. You know, I mean, Myron's a perfect example. Myron's famous for cooking barbecue, but is that really what made him what he is? Or is it just that he's this redneck guy who found his thing and he knew how to run with it? And he knew how to manage the business of being Myron. That's what I always say. I think I knew how to manage the business of being me. And somehow those things just fell in my lap. And, you know, like I could have said, no, I don't know how to write a book, but I needed the money. So I said, yeah, I can do that. And, you know, I didn't know I was going to be good at it for a while. So it's been a fun life. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, it's a great story. And I love listening to it and love always catching up with you here on this show too. So the folks, we're always getting new listeners. Maybe they're just new into the whole industry. And, you know, you're a portion of, it's great to be in this time because a lot of what you would call the old schoolers or the guys that were really in it in the beginning when it really started to gain popularity. I mean, everybody's still around, everybody's accessible, and we can, you know, talk about what it was like back then, but then we can also talk about what it's like now, and that's unique. It's not like it was 200 years ago and we can only read what Ray Lampe wrote on the, you know, the pages of books and then speculate on what he meant. I mean, we can just talk to you and do it. So that's the best part.
Yeah, well, you know, you say that, but then again, there's, you know, if you go back to a certain level, okay, we go back to the days where the early competition days when it really started to morph into what it is. And yeah, there are a lot of us are around. Johnny Trigg said one day, probably 10, 15 years ago, we're talking about this. And again, we saw what was happening in front of us. We weren't exactly sure how it was going to play out. And of course, I like to think that a handful of us were actually managing it too. But Johnny said, I'm bummed out that I'm so old and I'm not going to be here to really reap the rewards. And luckily Johnny has hung around, and I think he certainly has reaped a whole lot of the good stuff and hopefully still does. I haven't seen him in a while, but you know, but Johnny and I could both tell you about people that were there when we started that aren't around anymore. And you know, so it can always go back further than that. But yeah, we are in an interesting time. It's, you know, it's really so cool to think about what is going to happen to this, because it has blown up and we do have real sponsors now, and we do have real brands that know who we are. I do Cameo. You know what Cameo is?
Of course.
So I'm on Cameo, and it's like I jacked the price to $79 and people quit hiring me. At $49, I had a bunch of work, or $60 or whatever it was. Anyway, it's fine because it's kind of a hassle, but it's fun to do, and it's certainly good for your ego. Well, I get one out of left field, a business Cameo to do. And I'm thinking this is kind of it's flawed, because for this one, I'm going to get paid after all the fees and everything, $700. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of nice. I could do those on a regular basis. And it's basically the same thing. And it was Camping World. And so it turned out it was internal. So it was kind of a weird script, and I didn't understand it. And once I started talking to the guy, it was really just a rah-rah speech for their salespeople. But I thought that was really cool that somebody in Camping World knew who I was well enough to think that I was worth $700. It cost them like 9 or 10 to do it. And, but to think that I was that big of a name in any world, that I would be a motivational speaker worth $1,000 investment. I just thought that was really cool. And it just shows you how far it's come, and gosh, where could it go?
This is a great transition when we talk about where it came from. I had learned, so at the end of April, I believe Ray Basso passes away, the founder of the BBQ Forum. And this is another aspect of where things were, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, and, see where it is today. The forum world isn't really hot anymore. A couple exist. Everybody's going to YouTube or just Googling. But, back in the early 2000s, forums were the place to go, and in this space there were none bigger. It was maybe one of the first, the BBQ Forum. So as you learn of Ray's passing, and then you start thinking about the BBQ Forum, when did you first find it, and what was your activity on the BBQ Forum?
Well, yeah, that's a loaded question. But I was living in Chicago, still in the trucking business in like 96 or so. And my neighbor buys a computer. She buys a Gateway, which, back then we got, Gateway or Dell was like what you bought. You got the catalog, and she buys this Gateway, and she's telling me about the barbecue forum. So I go over to her house and I look at it. And of course she's got dial-up service, and the actual software is in its infancy. So it's almost impossible to read because it's so broken up. But I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. I'd kind of been looking for an excuse to buy a computer anyway. I think a lot of us probably were in that boat back then, unless I knew that there was a reason I needed one, but I didn't really know what that reason was. My business was running fine. My personal life was fine. I didn't need this thing, but I knew I better jump in. And so because of her showing me the barbecue forum, I ordered up a Gateway, and it came to my house in the giant cow boxes, and I put it on my desk and got dial-up service and started looking at the barbecue forum. And it was a few years old, I think, at that point. But again, it was until about 2000. It was really not that functional. And again, most of us hadn't found it yet. But by about 2000, that's right when I moved to Florida and had a lot of extra time on my hands. And so, it was at that point, it was really becoming a thing. And it was this way for us to find each other. All the barbecue freaks to this day, that's what's been the growth of crazy hobbies like barbecue, is because we can all find each other on the internet. Before, I literally can tell you, I used to wait for the bullshit to show up and read it to see what was going on in the world of KCBS. There was no other way to find out. I could call Carolyn once in a while to see what was going on, but literally it's not that long ago. So yeah, but I realized that the barbecue forum was a fun thing, and that I could, sort of, I don't know that I realized it quite as much as by being a smart ass and just, constantly, poking at people, I could make a big name for myself. And I always joke about this because I don't like it when people do it to me now, but Paul Kirk, I poked at Paul, man. I just called him every name in the book and told everybody that he didn't win all those awards and everything. And frankly, it was kind of a mistake on his part to engage me, because it made me Paul was a bigger deal than me at that point, that's for sure. And by poking at Paul and hanging out on the forum, and I used to make fun of the green egg guys and all of that. It was such a social life for us back then. And I knew Ray well. I went to Ray Basso's house, and Ray, I helped Ray a lot too. We talked a lot. Ray was an interesting guy. I think you talked to him as well. We would have these weird one-on-one conversations, but he really listened to a lot of that. And Ray had a huge influence on what I became, because there was no other platform. How else was I going to become Dr. Barbecue, the guy who could talk shit and cook barbecue and help people learn how to cook barbecue, without the barbecue forum? So I have a huge amount of indebtedness to Ray and what he did there.
Is there a way to gauge the barbecue forum's impact on the landscape of barbecue back then, and how big of an impact it's made as we sit here today?
Well, there's no real way to gauge it except to, talk to the people, how many people it influenced, how many people that we all know each other because of it. I guess we would have probably found each other at some point, after that, but I don't know. I don't know how that would have worked. It's certainly, I don't know what could get credit for coming before it, as far as networking. Well, I guess it would have been the bullshit. You know what I mean? What else would it have been? I seriously, the National Barbecue Association, way back in the day, would send out a list of everybody's phone number and address. So if you wanted to talk to Sweet Baby Ray or Myron or somebody, if you got that list and you gave them a phone call, as crazy as that sounds and old as it sounds, that's probably what preceded it. So I think the impact is unmatched. I don't know what, I guess we would have came along, because if you know anything about Ray Basso, Ray did his own software. Ray didn't just, there was no WordPress and all that stuff back then. So Ray had to create that software. And the Big Green Egg Forum, a guy named Bill Miller wanted to have a Big Green Egg Forum. And this is before my involvement with any of them, but he called Ray, and Ray Basso helped him set up the Big Green Egg Forum, which was a big part of the Big Green Egg launching in its day and creating that whole quirky, lifestyle of its own. So that's a whole nother layer of it. So I don't know how you could, put a number on it, but man, there's nothing. You see when Ray passed, how many people were hanging around on Facebook and just talking about it and how much of an impact it had on all of us.
Also, one of the original creators of the Barbecue Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right. Ray and Mike Tucker. Ray always had the barbecue for him, and Mike was the lead sponsor back then. Mike would, if somebody had a cool idea, Mike would sponsor it, and we all returned the favor by ordering stuff from him and helping his business. But Mike was such a supporter of anything that looked like it was going to be a positive thing. I haven't seen Mike in a long time, but I'm sure he's that same person just doing it somewhere else. So yeah, Ray and Mike had the idea, as far as I know, to do it and put it together. And I told you this in secret this morning. I was like on the secret panel back in the day for the Barbecue Hall of Fame, because I didn't really want to seemed to be campaigning. I mean, I kind of knew that maybe I might end up in there someday, and I didn't want to really be campaigning. But Mike knew that I knew a lot of people and I knew what was going on out there in the world. So I often was kind of on, like I said, on the secret committee.
Ray, we got about 4 minutes or so before we go to the first break here. So let's talk about the current Barbecue Hall of Fame. As I had mentioned to Joe Davidson in the first hour, 4 new members go in on the living side last Wednesday. Joe Traeger, Leanne Whippen, John Marcus, and the fourth name that Ed Mitchell are all in. Your feelings on those 4 for the class of 2022?
Well, I'm pretty biased on a couple of them. John and Leanne are really good friends of mine, and both have, I've been hanging out with both of them for a long time. So I'm really happy for those 2 in particular. Joe Traeger, gosh, I actually work for the same company as Joe now. I haven't met Joe. I met his son. Haven't met him yet, but Joe, he invented the pellet grill. I mean, with the explosion of pellet grills and the way it's changed the industry, my gosh, how could he not be involved in that? And Ed Mitchell, Ed's Ed, I don't know Ed, but I've been around a whole bunch of events and we have a whole bunch of mutual friends, and he's obviously going to be a great representative of the Barbecue Hall of Fame. So I'm really happy about that. I told you, I don't know if I think I told you off air, you and I were talking about when it first was launched. I thought there was a glaring one that people had forgotten to nominate in the past, and I thought it was a shoo-in, was Byron Chisholm, and Byron didn't get in. It's really kind of interesting to me that he didn't. But really, when you look at that list of 9 every year, my God, man, it's really hard because people want their favorite guy from their favorite lane of barbecue. There's so many different things that constitute this, and everybody wants their favorite guy to get in, the guy that they know that well. That's great, but man, there's a lot more that goes into it. I can tell you, I'm on the committee that it whittles it down to 9. There was, I think, 80 some nominations this year. Most of them well written. Probably half of those people should be in the Hall of Fame, and we had to whittle it down to 9. And it's not simple, and you need a real interesting panel of people that know every corner of barbecue, and it's really, we have that right now. It's I'm really proud of it. I was looking at the whole list of inductees from 2012 or however far back it goes, and I can tell you I feel good about the diversity, I guess is the right word, but we've looked to every corner of the barbecue world. If you look at it early on, it was pretty much a KCBS kind of driven thing, and it's definitely not right now. We got a couple of serious KCBSers in there this year, but it's not at all, man. I'm really proud of the way it has gone, and there's no real way to decide what are the categories, what is the retirement age for Hall of Fame. It's just not that clear cut. So we need this strong committee, and I can tell you that committee it's really a lot of fun for me because it's a bunch of barbecue geeks and they know what they're talking about. And every obscure names will come up, and everybody in the room is like, oh yeah, I knew that guy. I hung out with him in 1980 or something. It's amazing. So I'm really proud of what's happening. And people I don't understand, everybody wants their guy in their lane to get into Hall of Fame every year. And boy, it's not that simple. But when I look at the people that get in, I'm proud of every one of them, and I think they all deserve it.
Ray Lampe joining us here on the show. Ray, we'll stop there, and then we'll pick it in. We'll dig into a little bit more of that minutia here in just 1 second. drbbq.com is website. Follow him on social at drbbq or at Dr. Barbecue. I'll talk to you about Yoder Smokers before we get back with Ray. Yoder Smokers designs and builds all of their products right here in the States, building pride through craftsmanship and world-class customer service. That's the backbone of how they've built this company. This approach translates into what can be a truly bespoke style product that elevates gatherings with friends and family, honored to have a trusted place in the backyards of America. From pellet grills to wood-fueled offset pits and charcoal grills, consistent blue ribbon flavor has become synonymous with Yoder Smokers' name. Make no mistake, Yoder Smokers' flavor-driven design is unique to each style of pit, and their team has developed their cookers to perform time and time again while outlasting the competition for generations to come. It's this generational thought that's rooted in the handmade products and defines the integrity of the core values: American-made quality, endless flavor, the benchmarks of Yoder Smokers. Check them out today, yodersmokers.com. That's yodersmokers.com. We're back with more Ray Lampe right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Smithfield. Head on over to smithfield.com for recipes as well as tips and tricks from well-known live fire cooks like Darren Worth, Jess Pryles, and Childs Cridlin. Mouth-watering flavor, no artificial ingredients. Smithfield Fresh Pork is quite simply some of the finest pork money can buy, and is the trusted choice of top cooks for use at competitions and at home. That's smithfield.com, and we are rejoined by Ray Lampe, Dr. Barbecue. Ray, is there anyone you would have liked to see get in this year as well if you could have added one more person instead of 4, if you got to pick one extra person off that list? Who was just off?
Well, I mentioned Byron because Byron just seems like such an obvious choice and deserving. You know, I look at, what have you done in the world of barbecue? Okay, you won a bunch of contests. That's great. What else have you done? And when I look at Byron is, talk about a guy with an entrepreneurial spirit. Byron, first of all, won every award. It's a great story. He told me about, he won the American Royal Invitational and got drunk and went and woke up in the morning with the trophy in his bed at the hotel because he was so excited about winning it. I mean, Byron had an amazing career as a competition guy, but Byron's also a trained chef. He went to the Culinary Institute of America. Byron created butt rub. I met him. He had just come out with it like 95 or something, and he didn't know much about cooking barbecue, but he was a nice guy and he hung around. And then he went and built this whole company around it. Byron, look at his website. It's not just that one product either. He's got some other really good products. They're dwarfed by butt rub, but Byron has taken a bunch of his money and built this like barbecue playground in Tennessee where he hosts all the European teams for around the Jack. And I mean, Byron's given a lot of money away to, help causes and stuff. Byron's a really well-rounded, businessman. And so I was kind of surprised at that one, but I guess if I would have picked one that should have got in, it would be Darren, because, Darren, I think probably gets forgotten because he's just still in the middle of an ass-kicking career. Darren, to me, Darren clearly belongs in the Barbecue Hall of Fame, and he'll get there. It's just a matter of time. But I guess that, to me, that's the one that would probably stand out.
Are we able to do a real insider's look at what's going on after the name nomination? You had given us a little bit of insight there before we went to the break, but you get the list of 9. What's happening behind the scenes to assure people who might be suspect that things are not being done the right way, or it's a solely popularity contest? Give us the integrity and the seriousness of all the names as they're being considered.
Yeah, so the way it happens is there's a committee of I don't know how many people it is. It's on the Barbecue Hall of Fame website. There's all the names are there, and we have a series of like 4 meetings. So the first one we have this just to kind of get everybody together and remember what we maybe refresh a little bit of what we had thought last year at the end, and what kind of new nominees there might be, and turns out there's like 80 some nominees this year, which I used to bitch at people all the time. You nominate your people, well, they get nominated now. There's a lot of nominees. And again, I would tell you half of them off the top of my head will probably end up in the Hall of Fame. This is a big list of quality people. And so then we just we have our meeting and there's an informal part of the committee that sort of works on things like the new award, the Impact Award. Okay, what are we going to do with this? We know that there's a huge influence from the slaves that cooked barbecue. There's no misunderstanding there. So how do we do that? Do we make the slaves an inductee into the Barbecue Hall of Fame? That doesn't make any sense. And we've got some experts on the subject, Adrian Miller on the committee. So we look to Adrian to help us with that one. How do we word this? And someone had the idea that, well, what if we created a new award that wasn't technically an induction into the Hall of Fame, but this fits better for something like that. And so that's the kind of informal stuff we do. And then there was a discussion of, well, could we put, I don't think there's any disagreement that there's a lot of people that need to get into Barbecue Hall of Fame. We're way behind in making this happen. So the discussion goes to, could we induct 4 members this year and 3 legacy members instead of 2 and 3. And so we discuss it. And as a committee, we decide, as long as there's a budget there for that, and there's no reason not to, that's what we're going to do. And so there's this, sort of housekeeping is more what I would call it. But I can tell you, as being part of that committee, and, Greg, this has been my life, man. I'm not just a competition cook. I've eaten in every barbecue restaurant I could find in the country. I've read every book. I accidentally became a historian. And like I said, it's this room full of nerds, and it's really pretty great. So I feel so good about it because I don't know that there's a better way to do it than to put a bunch of people in the room. And so when they start talking about a black guy from South Carolina that was a descendant of slaves, and I'm making this up, and his family then opened a barbecue restaurant, and his daughter is still running it or whatever, some story like that comes up. Well, it's a little out of my wheelhouse, but it's not out of the wheelhouse of half the people on the committee. It's really amazing how deep this goes. And so, we all sort of give and take, if it's not on my terms. I can tell you one I went to bat for this year strongly, and I think I got a lot of response, was Karen Putnam. Karen, I knew Karen. Karen was one of the original people back in the day helping us. Karen personally helped me with my barbecue competition cooking and was really nice to me. And Karen was a badass chef in Kansas City. The way I know the story, she was Paul Kirk's boss. And Paul, when they were doing Team Kansas City that won the first Jack, Karen was the lead of that team. Yep. That's my understanding of it. Now I could be wrong. I wasn't there, but Karen Putnam is a rock star in our world. And, you always got to remember in Kansas City, so in Cleveland now, if you go to a nice hotel with a culinary program, they might be cooking some barbecue. You got on 4th Street, Michael Simon's barbecue restaurant. That wasn't the case in Cleveland 30 years ago. There might have been a barbecue restaurant, but it wasn't on 4th Street, that's for sure.
No doubt.
In Kansas City, it was. Karen was the chef when I knew her at one of the big casinos, and barbecue was a regular thing on their menu because it's Kansas City. So there was this. For me, it was new when I first encountered her and Paul as well, that they were chefs and they were barbecue people. And so to me, Karen Putnam was just a rock star in our world, and was that's one of those people that could have gotten forgotten. And I went to bat for her and gave him my story. And of course, there was some well-written nominations, and so Karen ends up being inducted. And I think that's really a good one. Now, is that everybody's favorite? Does anybody on the internet know who Karen Putnam even is? is she more worthy than some of our more contemporary nominees? Well, I don't know, but I think she is. And I think we look at everybody in every corner of the barbecue world. And again, it makes people mad because it may not be in their lane. It may not be their friend. It may not be the big name, but there was a barbecue world before we had Facebook and Twitter. And, we need to consider that as well.
Ray, I had mentioned last week on the show that the Hall of Fame has changed so much from what it was originally thought of or intended to be, that perhaps there could end up being a potential image issue that the Hall of Fame has to contend with, trying to accommodate all of the live fire industry. You can leave a certain sector of folks feeling neglected or left out this year, as you were talking about the people wanting to see the people in their specific lanes get in. Is that a legitimate concern that you are talking about, like you and the names committee talk about, or are you good with where the vision and the ship steering is going right now, and that's just a mere bump in the road that you're going to be able to overcome as long as you continue to roll with the vision that you have?
I don't know that we've considered that. I know that there is a feeling among the committee that in the past there have been some less than stellar performances by the committee that we used to all complain that it was really no one knew what was going on. There was no clarity. There was no openness to it at all. And I think that was a problem. Now, I mean, it's definitely, I don't know that there's a better way to do it. Like I just described, there's this committee of people. And one of the things we also talk about every year, do we need to add some people to this? Is there somebody that would really be a good fit to this committee? We don't need to make it bigger, but we can. Last year, we added Kathleen Purvis, who's a really interesting culinary historian, and Amy Mills. Two very different people. They know each other, but two very different people and come from different places. So I tend to think, I don't know that there's a better way to do it now. When you think about what they did in some of the early days, they had the categories. Okay, we're going to have one competition guy. I don't remember exactly what the three categories were, but it's going to be one industry person and one competition person and one restaurant person or whatever it was. And to me, that was just I never thought that was the right thing to do because it just confined the thinking behind it. And there's so many lanes. It's one of those things. There's, how many lanes is there? There's so many different ways you get to be a famous barbecue person. Like yourself, perfect example, nobody, like your commercial said, nobody really, you're not famous for cooking barbecue. It's kind of where you found us all, but that's not how you made your name in barbecue. That doesn't make you any less important. Ray actually had a smoker, guy named Mike Scrutchfield taught Ray how to cook way back in the day. But that wasn't what made him who he was. That wasn't why he was part of the team. And then what about guys like me who did all these different things? So what category would you put me in? I think I got inducted in the celebrity category or something, didn't I?
Yep.
Which Paul Kirk was always making a big deal out of that because I didn't get inducted as a pit master.
I asked you about that when you got in. I was like, would you have rather been inducted into it as a pit master? So, I mean, I remember that. That's a big deal for some folks.
I actually forget. Well, but think about it. It's not anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's not a thing. I certainly think I belonged in there. So I at the moment, I think the best thing we could have is this group of people that is come together that are really experts. I can tell you by sitting in those meetings, if it was BS, I wouldn't be part of it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to be part of that. If I didn't think it was right, I wouldn't be. And I think everybody else is the same way. These are honorable people. You know what I mean? These are not like some schmucks that snuck in there. Now, what they were doing in the past, I don't know. Is there a better way? I don't know. How could we possibly? We don't have do we make you retire before you could be in the Hall of Fame? Well, I'm not going to retire, so I'm not going to retire so I can get in the Hall of Fame. Maybe we cut it off at 50 years old. I don't know. I know guys I didn't really start my barbecue career till I was 43. So, it's just hard to find a finite way to do it. So I tend to think for the moment anyway, just having this group of people that I feel really strong about. But trust me, I'll tell you today that I don't feel strong about that group of people, and I think they're making mistakes. So Are we getting questioned? I don't know. We probably will because I come out and talk about it. Emily comes out and talks about it. I don't know if Robert talks about it. Robert Moss, he's on the team, and Adrian. I don't know if they actually speak about it like I do. But, we'll probably catch some flack because of that. And once again, the real reason is because your friend didn't get inducted. And I'm sorry if your friend didn't get inducted. He might have been my friend too. But it's a pretty good way we do it. And then the voting is the actual Hall of Fame members, right, and the committee gets the vote as well. What are you going to tell them they're wrong, that they shouldn't have voted for that guy? There's the one that comes up all the time is Bill Arnold, and Bill was my friend too. And I helped Bill in the early days of Blues Hog. We were, I know the story, but he was on the ballot for 3 years and he didn't get voted in. It's not my fault. I voted for him. So I think it's done right. I don't think it was anybody got together and said, let's not vote for Bill. There's just a bunch of great candidates that end up getting in, Excuse me. I had COVID last week. I'm finally recovered. Should Joe Traeger not be in there? Of course he should. How did he not get in his first year? It's kind of amazing. So I just think there's just such a backlog that we just can't win until we get them all in, and it's going to be a long time.
Ray Lampe, Dr. Barbecue, joining us here on the show. drbbq.com is his website. Before I let you go, Ray, somebody had mentioned that the fifth or bonus week of a month seems to be infomercial show. We had Oklahoma Joe on a little bit earlier. We were talking about the new DLX pellet cooker, and then we had the guy from Next Grill on, Ramsey. Oh boy, why am I forgetting his name? Ramsey from Next Grill, and he was talking about it's a smart gas grill, but then also it's got an air fryer attached to it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not. And of course, you're now not new at this point, but outside of the brand everybody had associated you with for decades. You're with Louisiana Grills now. So after you have some time underneath and you're playing around with all these different models, what do you like about Louisiana Grills, and what should we be looking for if we're in the market?
I really like the grills. It's funny you say that. So you got Joe Davidson and myself out here hawking pellet grills. I think that shows you where the industry's going. Because I met Joe probably 30 years ago, and he was building smokers out of pipe from the oil fields. I mean, that's really, and Joe was one of them guys people were starting to forget about, and we got him in the Hall of Fame last year, and I couldn't be happier about that because he's a character and he belongs in the middle of all this. Louisiana Grills are really nice. They are building the upscale. So it's Pit Bosses, the same company. Pit Bosses are at Walmart and Lowe's, and we're selling them I was at the Daytona 500 selling them in the parking lot. And they're great. They're that level of pellet grill, and they wanted to build a nicer version. Now Louisiana Grills is a brand they've used before, so it does get a little confusing for the moment, but they brought on a team of sales guys from around the country, and one of them is Lou West, who worked with Big Green Egg with me, and there's guys from Traeger and Weber and every other grill company that have sold grills over the years. And then they hired me to be the chef in the middle of it all, which was an accident. You know what I mean? They wasn't just a casual thing. They're serious about this brand, and they built some beautiful grills. The Legacy Founders series are these 1,200-inch square inch one and an 800-inch square inch one with a stainless lid, double walled. It's got this sear situation that is unlike anybody else is doing. We don't have an air fryer on the side, but we do have a situation where you can slide over your deflector and grill a steak right over the fire. And I'm telling you, it works. If you put a steak on that fire, you better not walk away because it's going to sear it. They're just beautiful. I'm really happy to be involved with the company, and pellet grills are the thing, I'm happy to be part of that. That other company I used to work with, we had a nice run. We took that thing from the one that nobody knew what was going on with it to a pretty big deal. And we're kind of looking to do that again. And I think we got the grills to make it happen.
Ray Lampe breaking it all down for us, as he always does when he shows up. You can visit him at drbbq.com. Follow him on social media. He's active there as well. Ray, always appreciate the time, and we will do it again soon.
Thanks, Greg. Good to see you.
You too. That's Ray Lampe right there.
All guests appear via the Oklahoma Joe's Rider Deluxe Pellet Grills hotline.
drbbq.com, the website, and socially, he's still active, absolutely. And if you're in the market, check out those Louisiana grills too. Guy, is that enough for you? We've done 3 different brands this evening. How about that? Let me throw another one your way. Primo Grills. That's right. Maybe you're not a pellet fan at all. Maybe you want to do charcoal driven. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that they can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. They can also get rip-roaring hot for the high heat grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But we know what's missing, right? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is the very best way to cook, and it's important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. You can't get a two-zone fire in most ceramic cookers. Why? Because they're round. Enter Primo Grills, their game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute the two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. 60 different ways to configure this cooker, so only limited by your culinary imagination. Also, accessories. We love accessories. We want to spend all our money on a grill, then all of the rest of our monies on accessories. And here you can get a Primo Grill rotisserie that the owner, Nick Bauer, absolutely loves. He says chicken wings are second to none in the Primo Grill rotisserie. How do you like pizza? Yeah, of course. They have a Primo Grill pizza accessory. Other accessories always on the come. How about rib racks, half drip pans, things like this? Just like Green Mountain Grills, Primo sold through dealers only. So go to primogrill.com, find a dealer near you, visit them, see all the various sizes that they have. Yes, they do make a round one, but we're saying get the oval, be a game changer, be a mold breaker. Best ceramics in the biz, patented technology, true two-zone cooking capabilities, multiple sizes. primogrill.com for a dealer near you. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram as well, and follow them both at each location. Nick, send me a Primo already. Let's go. Appreciate Nick and all the gang over there at Primo Grills. We wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
Back in the day, watches were made to be worn in the pocket. After World War II, the wristwatch came into vogue, and the pocket watch quickly became an afterthought, finding their way into sock drawers and scrap heaps, and that's a shame. And the Vortic Watch Company helping bridge the gap between America's storied watch manufacturing past and taking it to present day, where the wristwatch is finding incredible popularity again. The coolest part, each watch that Vortic makes unique, one of a kind. Nobody has one just like yours. Vortic, founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Check out VorticWatches.com. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can't get out of here on time this evening, because that would be some kind of miracle. All the way back in the first hour, who did we speak with? Let me go on recollection. Oh, well, of course. It's my man, Oklahoma Joe. Joe Davidson, the original creator of the Oklahoma Joe's brand, talking a little bit about the DLX pellet grill, of course. Then we talked with Ramsey Hawfield from Next Grill, nextgrill.com, the website, and that Nevo 720 Plus Smart Grill, gas grill, and air fryer, all in one. If you missed that, podcast will be up here in just a little bit. And then the second hour, it was all Dr. Barbecue all the time, talking about the history of Ray Lampe, which I didn't outline for, but that's certainly great. We also talked about the Hall of Fame and the voting and everything that goes into that behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain as much as he's comfortable in doing. And that was quite a bit, by the way. And then lastly, talking a little bit about the Louisiana grills that he is now a chef for. So if you're in the market, check out all those grills that were mentioned this evening. But mostly all of the grills that sponsor me. We'll work on that next grill. Why not? Big show planned for you next week. It's the brand new month of June, so we're going to have How to Barbecue Right. We're going to have Sam the Cooking Guy back in the country, plus a host of other guests, and takes, and fun and frivolity, because it is the fun and frivolity show. How Do I Always Leave You? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.